Now, I've already made 2 videos about Animal Crossing on this channel. I've streamed it for over 100 hours over on my Twitch channel, played this game more than I'd like to admit, but I've never actually reviewed it. Here are my thoughts.
Here's your review.
All right, so I'm about 8 months late with this review, but Animal Crossing is a special beast. Of course, it's one of the games which I think defined 2020, which released right when the pandemic was pretty much settling in across the world. People were just getting used to this whole thing about being stuck at home with themselves or their pets or the other humans that they call their pets. And Animal Crossing was a release for that. And I have to admit, I was avoiding this game for a long time. It had no interest for me. I've never played an Animal Crossing game before. All of the marketing leading up to it didn't care. When they put it as a DLC in Mario Kart, I was like, oh, why are you putting this garbage series into my kart racer? And then they put it in Smash. I was like, what a waste. Not only are you putting Villager, but now you also have Isabelle. So overall, I really did not like this series. And of course, as my friends got into it, the pressure started. Oh, Jay, you should get into this. You should get into this game. Everybody's playing it. You're missing out on the Easter Bunny or whatever it's called, the egg event. And then a week later, they're like, don't worry, you want to miss the egg event. So finally, around June, I was really looking to get into streaming. And a few friends of mine said, you know, Animal Crossing is a very popular game that you could probably stream every day. I was looking for something to stream each morning with a coffee, something I could chill with and have fun with the community. And so I said, all right, I'll bite the bullet. Let's do this. And the first week, I really didn't like it. I was like, I should have trusted my gut. I just wasted over $80 because the first week of Animal Crossing is super boring. You have nothing unlocked. You're talking to a raccoon who's just telling you to go pick up twigs. There's a finite number of twigs. You can't even like cut down trees and do what you want because you're so limited on resources and tools, and you get like one item to decorate your home with. It's sad. You don't even have a museum. You can't, the airport's not even open. You can't even get off your island. So for the first week, every day was about 20 minutes. And I was like, I've done everything I can. I've done all like my daily quests. Why am I playing this game? And a lot of you out there were saying, play for a week. It gets better. And I said, all right, I've heard that before. But usually my philosophy is if a game can't convince me in my first couple playthroughs, it's probably not worth it. So anyway, fast forward a week, and then the magic started happening. We had Blathers who arrived on the island, and now I was like, ooh, I can collect things. I like collecting things. This is fun. But what's more important, and I was starting to get a little bit more of into the whole progression. So I would say the first maybe few months of playing casually are really good if you like progression, because you always have a next goal in terms of unlocking new things to do on your island, unlocking new functionality, unlocking the airport, unlocking the museum, unlocking the shop, upgrading the shop, bringing villagers to your island. And I think that is probably the aspect I had the most fun with, which is that progression and giving Nook all the cash this little raccoon wants to upgrade your house, and he robs you in the end. He's taken up a lot of bells. But once that progression is done, it's capped with, of course, KK Slider coming to your island and having a concert, and that's when the credits roll. And some people will say, well, that's the end of the game. You've done everything you can in that game, and that's it. And Animal Crossing is not like the other games I play in the sense that it's not a game that truly has an end. It's a game that you kind of just do whatever you want with. I like to call it my meditative game, which is why I really enjoyed streaming this every morning. And what made it even better than just me playing the game was when you unlock the community aspect and can actually play with a community of players. That's where this game really shines. So I feel that there's almost 2 reviews here. There's the single player mode, which I would say has a finite amount of pleasure to give. And then there's the multiplayer aspect, which can technically go on infinitely depending on how rich your community is. Rich in experience, not in money. So with the single player experience, once you've pretty much unlocked everything, it gets really boring. Once you see credits scroll, you can get inspired and say, well, I want to decorate my island like Hyrule, like what I'm doing, or anything else. But really, you kind of just log in every day for maybe 20 minutes and you've kind of seen what's new that day. You see what the new villager, the new thing that comes to your island is. You kind of check out what you can buy, and then you kind of did everything. Maybe you'll decorate here and there, but after you've done that for about, I'd say 2, 3, maybe 4 months, it gets repetitive and it's not for everyone. But what keeps it fresh, so on the and I'm not using scores. These are just fully my thoughts. I was about to use a score, but we're not using scores. On the multiplayer front, when you have villagers or friends, not villagers, who can come to your island, or you can go to their island, that's where a lot more stuff happens. When I was doing these streams, at the end of the stream, so I would always spend the first hour and a half doing my chores, doing my things that I want to do on the island to spruce it up. And then I'd open the last half hour to an hour to viewers to come and hang out on the island, and people would come out and we would trade things and we'd get new items. We'd look for new recipes together if there was a special event. That was really fun. And then, as I said, if your community is rich in experience, this is where things can get interesting. So for example, when on July 1st, when summer was kickoff, I threw a party where I spent 2 weeks getting my island ready to have a bunch of players over, and we had these little games. There was musical chairs, and every hour there was new guests coming over through a queuing system, and there was prizes, and that was fun. Also during the quarantine, I was seeing some people celebrate their birthdays through Animal Crossing, where you can wrap gifts, you can have little games of tag or catch the fish and stuff. And when you're playing that with friends, it's really just kind of a magical, special experience. And I say that with a big but or a big if, because this game has so much potential that is not served because of Nintendo's old ways. And I know we're doing a whole 180 here and getting into really critical criticism, but this game has so much potential. It has the essentials to be so much more, and what really holds it back is the online experience. And you don't have to, I'm not going to go through every detail. Just type on YouTube what sucks about Animal Crossing Online, and you're going to have tons of YouTubers who can list everything that's wrong with it. Just getting to people's islands takes a minute, takes 30 seconds to a minute. And then if someone has a text bubble open, you have to wait. And then let's say you want 5 people to your island. Well, you better grab a bag of chips and wait for 10 minutes, because it's going to take 10 minutes to get everybody together on your island. And that assumes everyone's Wi-Fi or internet connection is good, because if one person drops off, whoops, your whole island crashes and you've just wasted a half hour of your life. Everything about this game is so limiting when there's a part where it's time to run. As a player, you've learned everything, you want to run. And this game just holds you back. While I was building my island, 6 months after I started, I learned that there was a limit on how many bridges and ramps you can have on your island, which is 8. And it's why would you limit the creative potential of someone? If I want to have 20 ramps on my island, why won't you let me do that? And then if you want to terraform things, you have to terraform one freaking block at a time. And I get that's to maybe squeeze out more time out of a player, not optimize the player's time, because this whole game's all about taking your time and being in a meditated trance and just get lost in this world of little happy villagers and everything. But it gets frustrating for players that value their time, that either have a lot of thing on the go and they want to do more each day. Oh, and outside of the limits of bridges and ramps, to build one bridge or one ramp or move it, you have to wait pretty much a day. So there's a day where you say, okay, I want to buy it, then I want it there, then you have to fund it, then you have to wait a day for it to show up. And then when it shows up, you realize it's one block over wrong and your whole village is unaligned, and then your OCD goes crazy. So then you have to go back to the raccoon, pay him more money to move the bridge over one block, and then you realize your houses are unaligned and you have to redo all that. So moving things around is a huge time investment. You want to move your village around, you want to redecorate, respruce up, you better commit to a month to get all your houses moved and your bridges and stuff. So that is a massive aspect that holds it back. Also, there's this thing online called Nookazon, which is like Amazon, but for Nook, get it? And it's all about trading and selling items in Animal Crossing using Animal Crossing currency. Why isn't that in Animal Crossing itself? Why isn't that a functionality of having an online marketplace? They have a stock or stork market, whatever, the turnip market. They could surely have an online, like a built-in portal, but for some reason, Nintendo just throughout the years, you know, it's a 100-plus-year-old company. Why can't they freaking do online at the same level that other game companies that have been around far shorter cannot? It's just frustrating because it was a game that had so much potential. And like a lot of people, if you ask now, they're going to say Animal Crossing is dead. I don't think it's dead, but it definitely has surpassed the hype level because a lot of players that were there left because the game just doesn't allow the community to keep going on its own without putting like sticks in the wheels. It just slows everybody down. And even in October, I made this video about loving the Halloween event and getting sucked back into it. Guess what? After 2 weeks, I was bored again because the game is just holding you back so much. Also, my life got in the way and I couldn't play Animal Crossing as much as I wanted to. So there's just so much more. Just so much. Even item hoarding. There's people who want to collect every item in the game, and I say if that's how you want to play the game, you should be allowed to do that. But nope, there's limits on how many items you can store. Why are we talking about like item limitations? Is it a memory issue? No, you can like those things are like 1 bit. You can fit all the items of Animal Crossing on a cartridge. There's no reason that should be limited. Another aspect that I find really missing is there could be a whole like food economy system, like a farming aspect to Animal Crossing. And I hear rumors that maybe they're going to do that. This is a game that is constantly evolving. They're constantly adding things to it. Just in the October update, you could actually farm pumpkins. Okay, now take that further. Let us farm any items we want. Now add in a cooking mechanic. Like add in these things that add so much more longevity to this game. Like we already saw communities pop up that do custom tile work so that you can have like these really unique designs on the floor. You have people who are doing custom clothing and stuff. Like keep doing that. Like I know in World of Warcraft, there are people who specialized in crafting accessories and jewelry, and they're like a jewel salesman. Some people specialize in armor and they like live in the World of Warcraft as armor salesmen. The Animal Crossing community could have all of these things, but for some reason it's held back by intentional limitations. I can't see any reason why these limits are in place other than for the sake of sucking time out of the player to almost make this experience artificial, that it should take longer than what it is. And maybe that's the philosophy of Animal Crossing, that things should take time. But I feel if there was any other game that had the same spirit of Animal Crossing without those limitations, it would just be a more successful game. So overall, it was a fantastic experience to get involved with, especially in 2020 when there was all this hype. It was great to actually learn and appreciate a new Nintendo IP, which has gained so much popularity. And I actually get it. I recognize the characters. I recognize the frustrations and the joys of this game and this IP and this franchise. And I'm glad I played it. But it's going to be so hard to get back into that magic of where I was, you know, in the summer, streaming it every morning with my coffee. It'll be a gaming experience that'll always stand out as unique, and I think that's one thing Animal Crossing can be praised for. But I think it's just it's very hard to stay in that ecosystem, and I think that can be said about any game. Every game, you're going to see the players leave and come back, and that's just going to be the reality of Animal Crossing. But overall, if you've never gone into the IP before and any of this sounds interesting and you have some friends that could get into it and play with you, I highly recommend it. If you can get on discount, the single player experience is probably worth it for like $30-40. But otherwise, if you're not into taking your time and having this little thing to just unwind with at the start or the end of your day, probably not for you at this point. I'll see you on the next video, and until then, keep it classy.